listen, you got to follow your creative outlet. You have to. You know, there's a balance between tomorrow. You're gonna have 10 million followers by next week. You know, because that money was up from there.
End up working though? Did the student? What was there a PR strategy to launch a new restaurant? You know, how did it was it like?
Pulled it off the wall, and I'm embarrassed.
Yeah.
Completely. I'm like, everyone's staring at me. Awesome.
Your story is very interesting. You got a variety of different incomes. I'm excited to jump into. Refugee from Iraq.
All you need is Habibi and Azizam.
What is it?
Azizam Persian and Farsi for like my beloved,
yeah.
And Habibi is the same, but in Arabic.
Yeah. Really excited to have you here today. There was something I remember you saying when we were talking not too long ago. I mean, like, I think your career is really interesting. You're doing a variety of different things. You're a real estate agent. You're a developer. It's a lot of different things going on. I want to get into, you know, does it all tie together well? Is some stuff you shouldn't focus on, some stuff you won't be focusing on? How do you balance it all? Give me a little overview of that.
So I think, you know, being that we are in an entrepreneurial, like, web kind of thing, I think anyone that goes into real estate with the mindset that it's not a business is going in the wrong path. Because I think that not only is real estate a business, it's almost like a political situation. Because you're not going to have one endorsement or a single endorsement when you're going into politics or when you're starting a business. Because I think the model of fame is the best business model that there is.
Tell me more about that.
The reason I say that, it's not due to vanity. I think you know, there's a negative light and a positive light to every single thing. I think that the aspect of a business model is to serve a business or a promotion of certain product. And I think that fame is one of those endorsements that's organic. It's like an organic distributor almost for an individual. So like, you know, if, you know, Oprah Winfrey for some reason decided to go, Latney is the best title company, he has the best title company that there is. Tomorrow, you're going to have 10 million followers by next week, you know, because that model, you know, it works. Because people are endorsing your said product or concept or whatever it is. So that's why I think fame is that model, best business model that there is. So that's kind of why when I began, you know, my DJing, it was creatively began because I wanted to express. And that started all in high school. You know, I was a junior in high school. I was in the student government.
Okay.
And I was voted in by my class as secretary of my, you know, class of 2009. So with that being said, there was a pep rally. Miss Scott from Lee High School, now John Lewis, but she's the one that was giving me my motivation. So yeah, so that aspect of like the creativity, Miss Scott was like, you gotta try this thing out. I know you love music. And I was like, yeah, I have virtual DJ on my laptop. To anybody that knows virtual DJ, it's way long ago. I got it as a free download, and I remember taking my laptop to the pep rally and just playing all these YouTube downloads. And one song I played, Little John, From the Window to the Wall. So that whole thing was unedited when it was supposed to be edited, and it played on loudspeakers, and the security runs up and grabs my laptop and just pulls it off the wall, and I'm embarrassed completely. I'm like, everyone's staring at me, and I'm just, that was my first experience of DJing. And so from then on, it was from there. Did that end
up working though? Did the students appreciate the fact
they did? I was popular after
you're
that.
Popular after that, right?
And I've
the
always...
fact that security is yanking off the wall is good for your brand.
100%. 100%, you know? And so, you know, there's publicity, good and bad, but I think publicity is publicity. Yeah. And in that sense, everybody knew me from that day on, and that's when I started the idea of, you know, fame in a way, right? And I'm not talking obviously on a larger macro scale. It could be local, you know, local fame, micro fame, where it's your.
In fact, there was a good example you gave me earlier, which was you had a popular producer in this area that was looking to buy a house in Atlanta, and in a sense, the person you ended up working with was, you said, kind of credited because of fame. Right?
Correct.
Can you explain that to us? Right.
So recently, I had a friend from New York City who I knew through the music industry from college, because I went to Old Dominion University. And in Old Dominion, Norfolk, Virginia, and the Hampton Roads is pretty famous for, you know, allowing a lot of artists to come up. Missy Elliott, you know, you have Pharrell that came up, Family, Pusha T. So there's a community there that is actually pretty connected with, you know, the music industry. So I knew somebody that does video directing through my mosque. So I went to a local mosque on campus, and a Bengali family ended up being very well connected because of their video production abilities. And that person, fast forward 15 years, became the top video producer, Elusive Media, in New York City, helping A$AP Rocky, A$AP Ferg, Beyonce, Lil Wayne. So he was like, Hiwa, I'm looking for a house in Atlanta. I'm moving from New York. This was about a month ago. Yeah. So I said, okay, give me 1 second. I went on Lab Coat Agents, referrals, and I posted on the wall a high profile, Atlanta music executive moving to Atlanta. And that led to 400 comments, like 300 likes, and being bombarded, like being phone called, messaged, everything. I got 1,000 friend requests just from that post. Right. And one person that I chose was Glenda Baker, because instead of me reaching out to all the people that did reach out to me, I did appreciate that. But it was one person that I was following in Atlanta through her content that was making the most sense. She had a real, raw content, and she was being endorsed by people that I followed, Gary Vee, Ryan Serhan, and all these people. And that circle that she had was fame, Because of her fame, that was an endorsement that was organic.
And a lot of people always ask, does social media drive to sales? And it's does it lead to sales? And it's it's a hard answer, right? Because, first of all, anything you do has to be done consistently to work. And I'm sure she's been doing consistent content for many years, and that has created credibility. So, yes, when she started, and I don't know when she started, but let's just say she started 5 years ago. 5 years later, was it worth it? Yeah, it was, right? They get, if she all of a sudden gets that deal and then gets into that network, and then, it goes from there. But a lot of people are like, hey, I started doing marketing, it's not working. And I think it's important to understand marketing is a long-term strategy, and it's not just something that works immediately overnight. Now, there are some programs, Google Pay-Per-Click and some other direct sales programs, but building a reputation takes time, which is kind of what happened to her.
100%. And like you said, it doesn't happen overnight. I think what is the key thing in all of this is top of mind. Because we are living in such a digital society, not only are we getting analog, sensory overload, we're getting digital sensory overload. And the more sensory overload we get through media, from a lot of propaganda that we're getting, a lot of stuff that's just trash, honestly, we start discrediting, media. We start discrediting phone calls. How long ago did the telemarketing industry ruin cold calls? I'm not saying don't cold call or don't call people like that, but being more strategic about it, because you're getting desensitized. People are getting desensitized to answering, and they're also getting diluted with all of this, right? So I think the digital marketing aspect is staying top of mind, and then having key creative original ideas, because if you're able to do those things and keeping it short, then you're going to be able to capture people on your own community or own own fame. But if you're going ahead and being overproducing some things that are just very bland and very basic, or copying the next person, or holding your arms like this in a photo as a real estate agent, or doing what everybody else is doing, you better be producing a lot more than everybody else, because then you have to hit other variables. But if you want to be very creative and consistent, just stay top of mind. Stay top of mind. Look for organic endorsements as much as you possibly can, because if they're at the dinner table at Thanksgiving, they want to be seeing something recently from you that keeps them top of mind. That keeps you top of mind for them.
Right. Yeah. So recently, I believe you got residency at Ballos. Did I say it correctly?
Yeah.
Did I say it right?
DJ residency at Ballos.
Not a big deal. But some people know it is a big deal. This is the best club in the area. How do you go about getting residency there? What does that process
it's a restaurant, food focused, with a vibrant background in the music. I think what they're doing there is a food and beverage program, as well as they're trying to have a leisurely music towards the night. So Ballos is in DuPont. It's actually right behind, a dance club called Heist. It is in the CBRE building for all the real estate people. And this is a New York group of restaurateurs and coffee roasters, 4-5 Coffee. Shout out to Stefanos, Tom, and Joe, and Mike, of course. But they are bringing a Miami, New York Greek vibe. So all those three meeting in D.C. To create that sort of aspect. And everyone that I've been seeing that has shown up there they are gonna get the dancing vibes, but
Yeah.
they're gonna get good food in the beginning.
Yeah.
So it's almost like they've planned your night out for you.
Yep.
You you start there with a few drinks, you get seated with nice dinner, and then you go into the bar area that has amazing bartenders and make good cocktails. So it's almost like people want to be able to experience that whole night there.
Sure.
You don't have to leave.
Hey, look, from what I'm hearing, and I'm an old man, so I'm not allowed out of my house,
Hey,
but this is the hot spot. I mean, this is the place to be. Like, to get the residency for DJ, I mean, did you try it out? Was there tryouts? What did that look like?
It's unspoken, right?
Okay.
What happens is in the beginning where they started having the DJs, it's almost like they wanted to see who met a few variables. Who was able to deal with Joe, who was able to do the napkin toss the best. But no, there's different variables. I think everybody connects with people very individually, and I think that everybody has a first impression, and they don't get that one back. So with that being said, it's an unspoken audition because you go in, if you play the right music, you connect with the staff correctly, and you have the, just in general, that vibe, then you can connect with a place, and they would want you more than maybe the next person who does better at a different medium, right?
Yeah, very cool.
Platform,
very
yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So how much of your time in a given week are we looking at as clean slate development, right?
Mm-hmm.
DJing and being a real estate agent? How do you break that up typically? What does a normal week look like?
So Sunday is my cutoff. Sunday is that relaxed day because Thursdays I have my residency starting at happy hour at Balos. I'll start playing from the beginning of the night towards the end around 12:30, and then Saturdays I have the residency as well. But for me, I'm able to take that creative outlet and do that and be able to interact with so many people.
Yeah.
Because I'm not just playing music there. I'm able to touch a lot of people. That sounded weird, but I'm able to talk to a lot of people, and that's very important to stay relevant. Again, as a real estate agent, you want to be hyperly local. Shout out to Carrie Scholl and Dan Lesniak, but you want to be hyper local and be able to connect with your community. And if they're going to go choose a restaurant that night on a Thursday, Friday, or Saturday, they're choosing this place. So if they're choosing this place, you're automatically endorsed if you're part of the group.
That makes sense.
So Sunday to Thursday, I'm fully committed to lead generation, finding clients, talking to past clients, checking out deals from wholesalers in the area. Due to the inventory and scarcity of the regular market, we got to go into the the deep, dark, and open web. So that's how I cut out my week. Is that very productive 4 days. Sunday's my rest day, and then once Thursday begins, I'll be able to have Friday for showings as well because Friday is open completely.
That's very cool.
So it helps me as a person who is very has a lot of energy. I'm high energy, and sometimes organization is not my best suit. But if I have things that are forcing functions, that will lead me to have a schedule. I like that better than being independent with Clean Slate Dev for the last 3 years, not being on a team. I had to learn to fill up my gaps with a good time investment.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. How, are you currently doing projects right now? Are they in DC? Where are they at for the development?
So the development, I'm actually working with a friend in a boutique hotel out in Mexico.
Oh, really? Cool.
We're still kind of like figuring out the details of the boutique hotel, but that's something that I've always wanted to do. I think the opportunity struck itself through music, so I'm able to have those conversations.
All right, so I think you've got a unique situation that many people have had. 2019, you had a first aid trip to help refugees because of the ISIS invasion. Tell me about that experience, and I believe you were still working here in a sense while you were doing that.
Yeah, I guess it was around the time ISIS had invaded Iraq, towards the closer to the early 2020, 2018, 2019 era. And they went from Libya into, that whole state collapsed, and then they were created there, and then they moved on to, the Middle East, other countries in the Levant, and then they made it to northern Iraq, where my family resides, the whole extended family, and that's when I, was full-time with the Carrie Scholl team, and I was able to not only talk to Carrie about being able to go over there and help as much as possible with, taking an aid package, because, there's areas outside of where ISIS was invading. Mosul City was their main, I guess, largely invaded area. There's villages on those outskirts that had, a lot of people that lived there. So I thought, my aunt being a commander of a women's brigade for the women Peshmerga fighters, so they're freedom fighters for women in northern Iraq. She told me that I'm able to go with her brigade and deliver aid if I do make it over there. So with that being said, I said, this is a great opportunity to do a fundraiser. So we were able to do a fundraiser in that period of time, raise a good amount of money, and go over there and deliver, books and school supplies and things like that for your hierarchy of needs to go on, right? Mm-hmm. Because, we thought about food, but food is very temporary. I think the other stuff, education supplies was the best for that moment. But as I was there, I was still doing the team meetings on Wednesdays from northern Iraq. Thank God for the internet. Yeah. But it definitely connects the world.
Sure, right?
So I was able to do that on Wednesdays and close 2 deals while I was over there, communicating through WhatsApp with my clients and getting everything facilitated for them for closing. So that all worked out very smoothly. We didn't have any hiccups. There was a period of time when I was there, we were going from one village to the next, and as we're crossing, there was like a convoy that intercepted a checkpoint, and it was like American Special Forces that were there. And I remember seeing them, and then they were going a different direction from where everything was, and that's when they told us that we need to evacuate right away where we're going because there's a ISIS convoy coming towards us. Okay. Yeah. So that's when things started becoming more real in that aspect, and I think one of the biggest takeaways was, like, when it comes to like your mission or your goal, it's like you keep that in mind 100% no matter what surrounds you, because there's no immediate threat or danger, and you continue your mission to take those supplies. It's one of those things where everything can be a gamble, but if you can complete what you have started, it kind of ties back to fiduciary. Right. Ties back to being able to protect your client's best interests. Because if people are willing to go the extra mile and even willing to go extra 6,000 miles, I think that they have a passion within them that can do the best for their clients.
Yeah. How long were you over there for?
I was over there for about 6 months. Wow. Yeah, 6 months.
Pretty
And then, and today I know there's a lot of turmoil over there. I think people, if they can critically think for themselves, it'll help them in the long run.
Meaning like the people over there?
No, people here, people locally. I think we need to really critically think for ourselves and kind of go into things we learned, in college, things we learned in high school, were academic sources. Yeah. Going into actually finding the root of like an article, because I think business ties into the global atmosphere. So I think that people should critically think more and should rely on TikTok news less.
There you go.
Unless you're talking.
What's the biggest misconception of that area, of over there? Just talking to people here, how they perceive, Iraq and.
So I think people misconceive the notion that area, that region, was the original rule of law. We see it as a very lawless place from our media, and of course we have to really think about the history of that place to understand, because if we don't know history, we're doomed to repeat it, and that's where we get into like knowing. If you really want to speak on something, if you want to be like an opinionated piece, don't just repost something without really thinking about it yourself and having your own opinion on it, because you really don't know what people's agendas are. So biggest misconception is the history, right? And I think moving forward, if we can humanize it more.
So music and real estate, in a sense, I mean, they seem very different, but you tie them together nicely. In fact, I've seen you DJ at real estate events, and I've seen you, I think, get deals from stuff like that. Like, how do you see those two, and why do they work well for you?
I think because if you zoom out, people make a choice when they listen to music. People make a choice when they buy a home. People make a choice when they're getting a real estate representation. So when people make these choices, it's very deeply rooted choices and their taste. So when they're buying a home with finishes, it's about taste. When they're price, feature, location, and type of home, these are all things that they're choosing, right? So I think it ties in with choice. You can't have these days a movie without a soundtrack, can you? It's going to be weird. Like if you had, Keanu Reeves to The Wiggles, it'll change the whole movie.
Yeah, sound matters so much. So we do this all the time, and we'll do a video without sound, and it's like, oh, it's horrible. You add sound to it, it's a different. It's a different thing.
100%, because music equals emotion. Yeah. And I think that people are very emotional when they're finding a home. So
Yeah.
if you can understand people, how they move through music, you can easily steer them in the right home.
I like it. You know, the current spot you're doing your DJ residency. Do you look at taking on more DJ gigs, or you kind of enough's enough? How do you look at that?
So my main thing is I'm more disciplined when I'm in that environment now because I have this sort of my priorities set up. I'm not just doing like DJing, partying kind of thing. It's more like I'm doing the DJing and connecting with people, but I'm not drinking heavily while I'm doing my DJ set, because then I have other things I have to prioritize. The crazy thing is like you have the older you get, the more recovery you need, right? So I think it's learning to just take on what you can take, like capacity wise, and then not going over capacity. So I don't think I'll be taking any more residencies. Although MXDC on 14th Street Fridays might be a thing, because Chef Todd English invited me to be the resident there on Fridays, so that might be a thing.
By Saturday,
and celebrity Chef Todd English, it's hard to say no to him.
No, their story is interesting, right? You were telling me a little bit about
the Battle story. It's very unique. It's awesome for the entrepreneurial community. It's very inspiring. So 4-5 coffee roasters started in New York City. You have Stefanos and Tom, and you can go to 45.com to read their story. But basically, they started with a coffee roasting company, and they imported their coffee and did that for about 5 years in a big warehouse in New York. Then they were able to get all the mom and pop coffee shops to buy coffee beans from them. Then they had a big building developer offer them a coffee shop that they were going to cover the building costs on. They just had to come in and set up shop. Right. It was like a dream come true. It was in Times Square, and they said, you have to use our brand. The developer said this. Yeah. Instead, this was a moment of, do you got the balls or not?
Yeah, right? Sure. That's a big deal.
They faced them and said, no, unless we get our brand on this cafe, then we will accept this deal. And this was contingent. The building deal was contingent upon having a coffee shop on the first floor. Okay. So there was a little bit of negotiation leverage there. Sure. Which brings me back to like understanding leverage, right? Yeah, right. But that is where they changed the whole trajectory of their business. They made the developer accept 4-5 Coffee, and now they have over 35 locations in the country, and they were able to open this restaurant in DC. Yeah. And they partnered with Joe, Restaurant Joe, who's pretty prominent in the restaurant industry.
That's very cool. Now, this is their first restaurant in the DC area? And how about the East Coast? The first restaurant?
I would say it's their first restaurant concept together. We're talking Joe and Tom Stefanos, and a few other investors, but their main thing that really created that fame for them was the 4-5.
Nice. I've heard Ovechkin, some other people have been attending times there recently at this restaurant. Yes. That's what I've been hearing. Had like a soft opening. How'd that place launch and gain popularity?
What happens is, New York City is known to be the Empire State, right? So if you make it in New York, you can make it anywhere. It's a real thing, because I think the hospitality level in New York is different. I love DC very much. I respect it. I think we need to, be able to glorify DC more locally. DC does have culture, and that is what we need to implement more of, instead of just conservative government, right? So to invite more people into DC for that sort of entertainment and leisure, these sort of things need to take place. I would say Ballos is a DC born thing. Yeah. And the energies that came together to make it happen, it wasn't just, this coffee group and this restaurant group that came together. It was also the local people that were in real estate, that were in, restaurants, that were in hotels. For example, we had Nath East, we had Pete from Glow. These are all people that own very prominent venues. And, when people are going to big concerts, to go see an act or entertainment aspect, that's where the local celebrities of DC show up, you know? And so with that endorsement, they're going to take pictures, they're going to tag, and then the media, the marketing behind it, there was the number one thing was the napkin toss.
Okay, tell me about the napkin toss.
Because, you go to Tulum, you go to Mykonos, you go to these places, and you go to the beach clubs, and the vibe of the places are, everybody's on vacation, right? Yeah. So when everybody's on vacation, of course they're going to have a more inclination to get up and dance while they have dinner because it's you take advantage of the vacation. So they took that idea and was like, let's put it in a place where people don't have to go to New York City. People don't have to go to Miami. Let's let them stay in their backyard because DC has that vibe. We just need to open it up. So at 11:30, 11:15, don't quote me on the time. It changes every Thursday and Saturday according to Joe. But let's say 11:11.
Yeah.
What happens is we'll put on a song. I'm not gonna say completely what goes on. I want people to experience it for themselves. Yeah. But let's just say the whole place erupts, and it's a moment that you don't usually get with collectiveness. Because the reason why I think they're so successful is what restaurant do you go to where everybody's collectively at one moment together dancing, and they were just eating separately 5 minutes before that.
Sure.
See what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's what a collective aspect is, what everybody's yearning for, but
Yeah.
they just need a lubrication for it. They need somebody to bring it together.
And when you say napkin toss, do you specify a little bit more detail on what exactly that means? I mean, is this something that's known in many certain area restaurants?
So I'll just say, in Mykonos and in Miami and in Tulum and these places, there's a moment where people like to spin their napkins around all at the same time.
Everyone's
it's a good
doing
song.
it at once. Okay, yeah.
So we'll just leave it at that.
There we go.
So. But other than that, I think that bringing all those people together, especially after COVID, everybody knows, we can all say COVID was a weird time. COVID, especially in big metropolitan cities, it took a while to recover from it. From people going out, from people like subconsciously not being afraid of big, group settings and things like that. So, of course, a lot of people had to pivot, in the restaurant industry. It's the highest mortgage default rate in all of business is restaurant.
Yeah,
it's
restaurant
impressive. Number one. So,
sure,
if people are able to, like I said, make it successful and have people choose your restaurant because there's so many, it translates real estate so much.
Yeah. I mean, what a risk you think about. I mean, you look at Clarendon too, and I don't even know how much was related to COVID, but gosh, those businesses just constantly go out of business.
Right.
Those restaurants. I mean, it is such a hard business to be in. Now, if the fact that someone's going and creating a restaurant in these times, it's actually an interesting time in the sense that there's not as much interest in it, right? Because it's so hard. So maybe it's actually an opportunity, right? It seems like.
And another, since we're on the topic of restaurants, you are going to want to, as a realtor, be connected with the people that are putting the most risk up for people that live around the area. Because we're all connected in that sense. Because you sell a house in DuPont, you sell a house on T Street, you sell a house, in Blagden Alley, you have Causa, you have Tiger Fork, you have all these locals that are connected to whoever you sold that house to.
Yeah.
Because what you want to do is you want to know your community. And I'm not saying this as I'm the best real estate agent there is, but I'm saying community-wise, you need to connect with your community. Sharon Srivatsa said it best. He said, don't tell me to come to an open house and then ask me what am I doing here. Yeah. Go interview locally the people that are in your neighborhood and then make that content accessible to the people moving into the area. Because everybody's doing this promoting of this one house, but who's going to interview local, the local tailor, the local shoe man, the local, the local bread bakery. And when you do that and you post that, people aren't going to be repulsed from the same content.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's a fair point. Yeah.
And so Causa, for example, is in Blagden Alley. It's a friend of mine, Glendon and Chad Spangler, started this years ago during COVID. They were the only SBA loan that was taken away.
Right.
And they had already started construction. They were almost over $1 million into construction, and all of a sudden that loan gets pulled because the SBA decided, because of COVID, restaurant is too risky to lend on.
Yeah. And
they already started their project. So not only did these guys find the funding in a very short period of time, but they got a Michelin star last year.
That's impressive.
Very impressive.
That's frighteningly stressful.
You know what I mean? And so and those are the types of people that are being inserted into those communities, and it complements the housing, complements your local housing community. So with that, not only did they get a Michelin star, but now the expectation's there. You have to keep it. It's not about getting it, right? It's about keeping it. Yeah.
No, DC is an interesting time right now. I mean, I'm seeing the DC government, they're actually going after a lot of businesses and scaring away businesses. So I hope they become more pro-business overall more restaurants and stuff like that can move in the area. I mean, DC is such a great city, and as I talk, because I do a lot of DC business, I'm hopeful that the government supports these local businesses.
Yes,
it's not what I'm seeing, unfortunately, in a lot of different industries currently.
Right.
Okay. Well, yeah. So, what do you see as the future ongoing? Kind of anything else you might be like getting into differently, or you kind of diving deep into what you're doing?
I would say my goal is to be able to create more passive income than my expenses.
Yeah.
So my goal is to, that's what I call financial freedom, is to have your passive income greater than your expenses, right? So with that being said, it's not how I'm going to get there, it's how many more connections I'm going to make to get there, because nobody is self-made. I don't care what anyone says. Your mother made you, and if you're saying you're self-made billionaire, that's not true, because your mother made you. So anyways, the future, I think, might get into, for example, GetStaked.com. GetStaked.com is started in Dubai. It's where people are able to invest in rental properties at $150 rate. So like as low as $150 from their phone, they can get involved with a pool of people purchasing rental properties or purchasing into rental properties. I think future of real estate investing is going that route.
Opening up more investment opportunities for the small guy.
Correct.
But no, that's very interesting.
Correct. I think that because you have bigger institutional investors that are getting involved in real estate, BlackRock and Larry Fink, of course, but they're still not the biggest holders of real estate. That's a misconception. If you go into the data, that's a lovely, sensational media for you.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, BlackRock's buying all the houses out there, all the single-family homes. They're not. The biggest holders of single-family homes are still private investors, are still civilians. So I think that renovation is still going to be a thing because of creativity, but people are going to be a lot more careful because of scarcity. That's the word I wanted to.
Okay.
That's the one word I would say that describes 2024's real estate.
I mean, that is
scarcity.
Very accurate, right? Last year, this year, and looks like the future too at this point.
Yeah.
Right? Until we get them.
Yeah, I think London and Toronto are good examples for DC. London because it's older, over 1,000-year-old city. You're talking London has only like majority co-op, meaning all of the older families in London bought land early on.
Yeah.
And the idea of owning fee simple is that's antiquated.
Yeah.
So we're still a young country. I think people need to take advantage of being able to own fee simple, because sooner rather than later, and I'm talking like 50 to 100 years maybe, there's not going to be any more trying to own fee simple. Anyone that owns is never going to sell.
Yeah. For those out there, can you explain fee simple? Fee
simple means you own the land and the lot up to whatever the improvement is. So you actually own the parcel, but when you purchase that property fee simple, you'll put a mortgage from the bank into trust until you pay it off, and then it's your title. So you'll be able to own it outright. Now, if you wanted to own this piece of land, say a developer comes along, says I want to buy your land. Can I build apartments? You say no. Here's a land lease. Here's 99 years for you to have your building on this property, but you have to pay me a portion of money. And that's what cities that are older, we have to look at and say, how much in West Ham or in Chelsea is property? Like 500 square feet is triple what it is in Georgetown.
Yeah.
So when people say how much more higher is it going to go, you have to start looking internationally. You have to look at London. British pound sterling is much higher than $1, but they're still paying triple price per square foot. So if people think it's how much more is it going to go higher before it busts, it's scarcity. It's supply and demand. I'm not a finance guru at all, and I'm not a financial advisor. But I'm saying, look at the examples, case studies of other cities.
Yeah,
I think it's super important.
I'm going to bring up an example on a point you said earlier, and we'll just cut it in. Like it's the same conversation. So yeah, you talked about content and actually doing stuff in different micro communities, or talking to coffee shops, talking to the tailors, stuff like that. I don't know if you've heard Levi Lassick or not. He's in Dallas, Texas. He created a YouTube channel. A lot of it's just more talking about the niches of each little area in town and why they are what they are. And it actually gained lots of popularity. We were part of a video conference together called Video Power. And, you know, it's pretty amazing. His first year in real estate, I think they did, you know, almost 100 million. And it was all based off putting out content that was specific to these micro communities. Oh, I want to know about the local stores. I want to know what the people are like. And, you know, so it's useful, it's interesting. And that's the kind of stuff people want to know about when they're thinking, if they're coming from another area.
Correct.
Tell me about, like, Old Town, or tell me about this specific area. Why is it different? What do I need to know?
Right. I think the idea of lifestyle starts with hierarchy of needs. You know, one being shelter, right? So if we think about it in the philosophy of shelter, you're taking yourself and putting empathy within yourself of that client. Gary V, empathy. He branded that, right? Everything's empathy with Gary V, and he was able to micro brand something, which was a concept. And every time you think of empathy, you think of Gary V. This kind of goes back to every time I want to think of Allied or Latin, I want to think of, you know, always settle, right? No matter what happens in the deal, we will always settle. Right. We will always get to closing. So being able to brand around it, you want to be able to brand your neighborhood, your niche. So if you know you do a lot of business in DuPont, what you do is you brand something around DuPont, coffee, and you go to every coffee shop and you review the coffee. Yeah. And then a person who's a coffee freak, or like somebody who loves coffee, which a lot of people do, they'll see your coffee video trending, and then they'll see that you're also, you know, an expert in DuPont. So I think it's just being able to take like the idea of, you know, house, and then what's empathy of the day to day. So what's around that? It's my day to day. What do I like to do? I like to go to the gym. I like to walk my dog. I like to do all these things. So I'm gonna do almost like a day-to-day of living in this neighborhood. Okay, we can go to this coffee shop. We can go here. We can go visit, you know, Causa. We can and go from there. I think so. Empathy of the person buying the house. You don't want to just think about selling the house to them. You want to be like, okay, once they do buy it, they're gonna want to go grocery shopping to fill up that fridge. Oh, there's a whole
show you what your life's gonna be a little bit, right?
Right. Like cool day to day. Yeah.
Awesome. For those out there that want to get a hold of you, want to book you for DJing, hire you as an agent, and what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Best thing is Hiwa at cleanslatedev.com. You can ask me anything you would like about real estate, investing, wholesale leads that I do have that are, you know, not spoken about publicly. And then as well as all my resources. You know, I have everybody from, you know, a tailor to people who own big restaurants, to music venues. So I'm your one-stop shop, a concierge, as you may. So if you need anything done in the city, just please contact me, Hiwa at cleanslatedev.com, or 703-606-0099.
You were telling me about, I saw the shirt. I thought it was a good-looking brand. What do we have here?
Tailor and Bond. Bespoke, made-to-measure, tailored suits.
Okay.
They've been around for years, almost a decade, and they do anything from weddings to custom tailored suits for restaurants. They've done Imperfecto. They've done most of the Michelin stars you could think of. They're able to do their outfits. So if any real estate teams or agents want to get to good made-to-measure, great Tailor and Bond is who you should look up on Instagram. Hey, man.
Good to see you. I'm glad we could connect again, as always.
Of course.
Look forward to seeing what you're going to do in the future.
Yeah, sounds good, man.
Appreciate it.
Take it easy.